Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. I wanted to make this video talking about what I've been seeing recently in Ukraine on the streets over places like Odessa, where people are being taken in vans by the Ukrainian, I'm assuming, intelligence or military, and supposedly sent directly to the front lines to fight. So they're not even getting a chance to make the argument why they shouldn't be in the war. They're literally being taken, chucked in the van, and taken who knows where, and have who knows what done to them without being able to say goodbye to the family or anything. And these scenes are becoming more and more common. And I posted one video on my channel. I might post a few more shorts that I've got, and I do believe they are accurate. But what I wanted to talk about is the message it really sends people and people in the West, because the Ukrainians who are there, while tragic, they had 8 years of warning. And even though the majority of Ukrainians, I would say the majority of Ukrainians have an apathetic attitude, and there would be a significant portion of Ukrainians who are on Russia's side, as well as a significant amount of Ukrainians obviously against Russia, specifically the ones in the West. The apathy that the Ukrainians had in terms of the nationalist and the fascist bombing the people in the East, the apathy towards them, killing those people, terrorizing those people, what was happening in the government. And it's understandable. Ukraine has a long history of corruption, so people have almost become like indifferent to it. But there were still proactive things they could have done to not support the regime in Ukraine. For example, they could have left Ukraine at some point. And yes, it's very hard to leave a country that's already poor, but you could still have gone even to a poorer country based on your principles. Now, in the same token, here in the West, we are currently living in countries that are, for all other differences, are fascist terrorist states. They fund terrorists, they fund Nazis, they oppress their citizens, they're totally corrupt, the media is completely fake. Everyone should accept this after the last couple of years, and we should also accept that elections didn't really do anything, because the majority of people in these countries, the majority of our neighbors and the people we're surrounded by, either have an apathy towards what's been happening or what's happening now, or they actually support it. And of course, there's always a small percentage of patriots and people who love freedom and who are against what's going on, but they are in the minority, and we have to accept that in the West. So we've been given time to prepare. Hopefully, I'm thinking we have about 5 to 7 years, but that might be too optimistic. But you see articles like this here, the US preparing Australia to fight its war in China. And previously, the previous Prime Minister, he was talking about a red line when it came to the Solomon Islands, which was an issue with China as well. And we've got videos like this. This is the foreign minister, I believe, Peter Dutton. He was the foreign minister, defense minister, talking about us going to war with China as well. So we've got the warnings. We've been warned. We've been shown exactly how totalitarian the country is. And they use the strategy of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So we've pulled back a bit on all the COVID restrictions and things, too many people having heart attacks and all this kind of stuff. And even people, from the far entrenched sheeple masses are even coming out and talking about how they were, vaccine harmed. And it's the same as it's like it's talked about in the video, where it says that the only way people realize the truth is when they have a military boot crushing their balls. Then they will realize what's going on. And that's what happened to some people who got vaccine injured. Like Jimmy Dore, for example, he's become almost like Alex Jones, and he came from spitting on Alex Jones and being very critical of him, and now he is, Of course, he keeps his liberal beliefs, socialist beliefs, but he's changed quite a bit. And I actually quite enjoy his content because he actually puts really good content together now, and that came from his balls getting crushed. But the reality is, and the election in Australia told us that it didn't happen to enough people. So we have to accept that, and we have to start making a plan, and the plan should be to leave. And some people will say, well, that's cowardice, you should stand and fight. And well, I call it more as a tactical retreat. Like at some point, the Jews in Nazi Germany were not able to do anything against the rise of the Nazis. Like they could have fought in the beginning, they could have tried to, let it drop and do things like this. But at some point, they would have had to realize that there was nothing left for them to do in Nazi Germany, that Nazi Germany had to have the experience of being Nazi Germany and having their country completely destroyed through that experience. So they left, and there was a few different types of Jews that left. Some left straight away, keeping everything they had. Some left without anything. And then others were apathetic to the very end until they got sent to the gas chambers and, to the gulags or wherever it is. So you can make the choice. But the ones that left, the ones that took the resources, their wealth, their skills, their intelligence, they were able to regroup in these other countries and support those other countries with the resources, with their skills, and even join up and sign up to the army and go back to Germany to fight against them. Whereas if I stayed in Germany, they would have been overwhelmed and, maybe they would have died on their feet, but they wouldn't have actually achieved anything. So that's the choice we have to make. And I believe that the best choice is to take your resources, because every tax dollar you spend now ends up going to fund the Nazis in Ukraine, for example, is going to fund the New World Order agenda. It's helping to prop up this agenda. Whereas if you move to a country like Brazil, for example, or Russia, wherever, I'm not saying you have to go to a specific place, but any country that's sort of resisting, that's more neutral. Mexico, I think there's some people that went to Mexico as well. If you do that, if you take your resources, your skill, assuming you are someone who's not a net negative on the country, who's not like on the dole and has 20 billion kids, if you're that type of person, maybe just stay here. But if you're actually a productive member of society, take that production to another country, and yet that country is going to be poor, is going to be a step down from the quality of life, but you can feel morally fulfilled, morally justified, and you might be surprised how much fun and how awesome these other countries are. I don't have any fun in Australia anymore. Yes, we have nice beaches. Yes, we have quite an easy life when it comes to working here, but I don't feel like I'm living here. I only feel like I'm actually living and enjoying myself when I'm traveling. So again, every tax dollar, we even get this like sheet at the end of the year showing us where tax money is spent, and it tells you exactly where this money is going, and it's going to the elite, and it's going to the military, which are doing all this nasty stuff and killing people. So you are responsible. So don't wait until you end up getting dragged off in a van, like people are getting dragged off in Ukraine. Make proactive actions. Let Australians or wherever you're from have the full experience on the road that they've decided to follow. And then in the future, once they had that full experience and had the military boot crush them, then you can go and rejoin and prop it up again. Like, look at Germany. That's what happened to them. And a lot of even though Germany is kind of going back now, a lot of the Germans actually remember what happened, and they're trying to resist it. So it just takes time, and yes, it sucks, and yes, it's uncomfortable, but don't try to blame anyone, because you have been warned. So that's what I wanted to tell you. Thank you, guys. All the best. I hope you make the right choice.